What is going on, Panther Lair? We are back talking about my early impressions of Cam Corhen. Now, I want to end this breakdown on a positive note here, so I am going to highlight some of Corhen's defensive improvements in drop coverage against ball screens. You might remember that early in the season, I took the time to look at a lot of different kinds of ball screen defenses that he was involved in. He was struggling a little bit, definitely not consistent, but I did identify that drop was probably where he was going to eventually be pretty strong at. I think that's been the case through the first 11 games. He's steadily improved, so let's take a look at it. This first sequence here against West Virginia. Now, one of the things Corhen's starting to get better at is he understands in like complex actions here, like DHOs, zoom action. He's pretty good about allowing there to be space for this player. So in this example, that would be Jalen Lowe to navigate through. He's also pretty good at understanding where his positioning needs to be in relation to how this player is going to receive the ball. Are they going to use the DHO? Are they going to receive and reject? That is probably, in conjunction with understanding if there's a defender on this side of the ball. So that would be, in this case, Zach Austin. So does a good job of understanding that his assignment is probably going to have to be somewhere here. He doesn't have to worry so much about going this direction. Leave some room, but Jalen Lowe does, just based on the way that this player is positioned, ends up having to gets caught, has to fight over, but Corhen would have left that room. Meets this ball handler right above the free throw line, and his sink rate's really good. He takes away, forces like a running floater. That's not a high percentage shot. He takes away his man's ability to crash the offensive glass. Pitt gets a rebound. So a few games later here, Greenbrier tip-off against LSU. Here comes that zoom action. Again, Corhen is getting better at this. And he understands, okay, here, well, now I'm going to have to meet the ball handler again on this side of the screen. Guillermo Diaz-Graham is like looming back there, so doesn't have to worry about too much of the reject. But in this example, what happens is Ishmael Leggett gets caught here on Corhen's guy, and so he just ends up peeling off and taking him. This doesn't look like it's communicated. I think this is instinctual. So pretty good read here by Corhen. And the good news is for Panther fans is Corhen's a good enough defender on the perimeter against certain players that he can hold up here. Will certainly hold up here a lot better than like Guillermo Diaz-Graham does. And so he holds up enough, forces kind of like a pass back out, and then Guillermo Diaz-Graham gets a block here at the end of the sequence. This is just his pass game against Eastern Kentucky. This is a combination of good recognition off ball and then again good drop coverage against the ball screen. So here's a pinup. What I really like here, you're going to see this in a second, is Corhen flashes back to take this away. So he steps away from his man, kind of pushes off, like not really a push off, but steps back and says, hey, the biggest threat here is a lob over the top. And you can see that's what Eastern Kentucky's going for because this player has lifted Brandon Cummings up along the wing, and you're not going to help out of the strong side corner against like this oncoming screen here. So that's not going to happen. But Corhen stepping back to take this first lob away because his player is not an immediate threat to receive the ball. He recovers as his man goes to set a ball screen here against Zach Austin and then establishes a good drop point. In this game, Corhen and Zach Austin switched a lot in ball screen defense. And again, in short stints, Corhen's not bad here. He does kind of hold up. He does eventually concede some penetration, only able to stride for like the first, one or two dribbles, but he can still do this in stretches. He was pretty good here. If you go back and watch the game, there are some stretches where he's really good switching out onto a smaller player that's comfortable putting the ball on the floor and was effective. It does help when Zach Austin's on your back line, though, and he cleans things up. And then this is to kind of detail out where he still has a ways to go. So this is also in the Eastern Kentucky game, and this is going to be an example of hedging. So he goes to hedge this, and he reaches. I don't love this too because this like really commits him at this point, and then his man just starts rolling down the middle of the floor, and then Amsel Delic has to pick him up. But I don't think this is great communication here between Zach Austin and Corhen, although I'm going to put this one more on Corhen just because of how consistent Zach Austin is defensively. But they just both kind of like ride this out, not ever really applying any pressure at all. Blanton doesn't really seem bothered. He stretches this out. Now that these three defenders are in help against four for a whole lot longer, particularly Delic. And because Delic had to like tag and hold on Corhen's man for so long, eventually Blanton makes this really easy pass to his guy. And so Delic has to set up. I mean, there's just all kinds of bad here, right? If this player delivers this ball immediately, this is an alley-oop. There's a drop pass available here. There's a cutter here. I mean, this is just bad, all kinds of bad for the defense. Delic ends up picking up a foul. This is probably the least problematic scenario that actually ended up playing out. But you can see that Corhen still has a ways to go in terms of his other ball screen defenses, but he is improving in drop coverage, and I think this helps also keep him out of foul trouble. Hasn't battled it nearly as much lately. Maybe that's a little bit of the level of competition, but being in drop looks comfortable. I think it's something that Pitt's comfortable running as well, so I expect to see more of this over the course of the year, but I also do expect him to make incremental improvements in the other types of ball screen defenses.